We've got 25 crazy incidents that will show you what the daily life of a Tesla owner looks like. Roll 'em. Brian was driving his Model 3 in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. He was approaching an intersection where the drivers coming from the right had a stop sign. A 2013 Buick LaCrosse driven by a young woman had already stopped at the stop sign, but then she proceeded to make a left directly in front of Brian. Brian attempted to avoid a collision, but he didn't have enough time. He clipped the driver's side quarter panel, spinning her into a telephone pole. Brian's Tesla went up a small hill before hitting a stone pillar. Brian's driver's side airbags deployed, but there were no major injuries to anyone involved, including the other driver. Brian called the police to report the accident. When they arrived, the woman tried blaming Brian for what had happened. She claimed she'd already completed the left turn and that Brian had rear-ended her, causing her to spin out and hit the pole. Brian let the officer on scene view his Teslacam footage, and he immediately determined that the other driver was at fault. Ironically, we can see in the video that there was even a big sign which reads, "Look left, right, left." Apparently she didn't see it. Brian got a small shock when he got the repair estimate. Can you guess the total repair bill? Leave a comment with your guess and we'll tell you the answer at the end of the video. The closest guess wins a Wham Bam hoodie. Here's a hint. The front axle, suspension, and steering rack were all severely damaged. Mika and his family had just left the mall and had made it through a yellow light when the drivers in front of them suddenly slammed on their brakes. The Tesla engaged automatic braking and stopped in time before they rear-ended the car ahead of them. Unfortunately, the driver behind them wasn't paying attention and ran the red light. They didn't brake, but they did swerve to the right at the last second before rear-ending the Tesla. Mika called 911 and paramedics checked out his kids and said they were okay. The other driver was very apologetic and admitted fault at the scene. The sheriff's deputy who responded just smiled and nodded when he saw the Tesla, saying, "Let me see the Teslacam recording." Mika contacted the other driver's insurance provider and discovered she'd already made a claim. The total repair bill came to $15,000 US, and the repair process took 2 months thanks to parts delays. Pickle Rick was stopped at a red light. When it was his turn to go, a car came from the right and ran the red, taking out cars from all 3 lanes. Pickle Rick provided his contact information to the responding officers, but he hasn't received a call back. Pickle Rick is a longtime viewer, first-time submitter. He wanted to give a shout-out to his wife Corey, who loves to hear him recount the Wham Bam stories he watches. Sally had stopped at a red light when a Toyota Hilux driver ignored all the warning signs and flashing lights about the upcoming traffic light over the crest of the hill. The Toyota driver slammed on the brakes as they came over the hill, locking them up. This sent the Hilux sliding over the wet road and straight into Sally's Tesla. They filed an insurance claim right there at the scene, and Sally's now waiting to hear if her red Tesla will be repaired or totaled. After seeing the damage, what do you think? Mikey was driving his Model 3 in Sheffield, England, when a blue Ford Fiesta entered a roundabout at high speed and crashed into the center island. Okay, let's watch that again, this time using the wide lens of his aftermarket dashcam. It turns out the Fiesta was being chased by the police and both of the occupants fled from the crash. We can see the passenger running away on the front-facing camera and the driver running away on the right repeater camera. We have no idea what these guys were up to, but one takeaway from this video is that it can be very useful to have a wide lens dash cam. We put a link to one in the description. Lewis was driving his Model 3 in Markham, Ontario when all of a sudden he got behind a very slow pedestrian. Lewis picked up the turtle and deposited it safely at the side of the road. Nicely done, Lewis. Samuel was driving his Model S in Garner, North Carolina when a tire fell off the trailer in front of him. Samuel flagged down the driver, but he pulled over about a mile away from where it happened. Samuel turned around and had already found the tire by the time the other guy was halfway there and was able to help him out. His Teslacam helped him figure out where the tire was so he could return it to its owner. Cherry Bomb was driving with autopilot engaged. He was driving behind a trailer with an old Defender on it when the driver suddenly braked hard unexpectedly. A van driver had overtaken a semi. The truck driver painted some new stripes on the road, and the submitter was able to brake before autopilot reacted. Brian and his family were traveling back to Atlanta after visiting family in St. Louis. They were heading to the supercharger in Mount Vernon, Illinois when they started to pass an RV trailer. Brian noticed something hanging off the rear ladder. To his surprise and his kids' laughter, there was a fake skeleton attached to the back. His kids wasted no time saving the clip and telling him to send it to Wham Bam. They even beat him to the punch with a dad joke. That guy was really dying to go on vacation. Haha, nice one. Chris was driving his Model 3 in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania when a van driver tried to pass on the right in heavy rain. They hit the car in front of them and spun out. Everyone appeared to be okay as they both pulled over to the side of the road. Shortly afterward, Chris noticed the same van coming up behind him. Chris decided to call the police later and offered them the footage in case it turned out to be a hit and run. The police confirmed that it was indeed a hit and run and they were looking for the vehicle. Unfortunately, the heavy rain prevented the camera from getting a good view of the license plate. Paul had parked his Model 3 in a busy parking lot during lunchtime in San Jose, California. That's when a thief rolled up in a brand new BMW 4 Series. A passenger jumped out and staked out the car parked next to Paul's Tesla. It almost looks as if they were about to leave when the thief turned around and smashed the quarter glass of the Tesla. The thief pulled the lever to fold down the back seat, but saw that the trunk was empty, so they moved on to the next car. Paul called the police. When they arrived, they were only able to see the last 3 digits from the BMW's license plate. We can't show a clip like this without recommending the Droplock, which deters this kind of theft. David approached some traffic stopped on the road. When he tried to sneak past them, he ended up getting caught in the middle of some ongoing road rage. Either that, or this guy was offering to help change someone's tire. David stopped and learned that the guy with the tire iron was dumping illegal toxic waste on farmland belonging to the guy in the blue shirt. The guy in the center had blocked his truck to force the first guy to wait until the police arrived. I'm sure there's more to this story, so we'll just leave it at that for now. Willie was driving in New York City when he came across a man dancing in the middle of the road. Willie tried to drive around him since he had no way of knowing what he might do next. Is that a Honda? Oh no, I see where this is going. Roll the jingle!
Jump in! Honda bumped! Honda bumped! Yeah, 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 Honda bumped!
A Honda driver with no driver's license and no insurance backed into Diaz-Mi's parked Tesla. He filed a claim with Tesla Insurance and reported the uninsured and unlicensed driver to the police. He's now waiting for parts to arrive, which will take over 6 weeks. Randall was driving on I-15 in Utah when traffic at an off-ramp had backed up onto the highway. That's when a driver ran into the back of a stopped SUV at nearly full speed. Randall called emergency services and notified them of the crash. While on the phone, the operator told him another call had come in about what they thought could have been the same crash, and they asked him if the crash involved an SUV that had rolled over. Randall told them he hadn't seen any SUV roll over, but after getting home and reviewing the footage, he noticed the SUV had indeed started to roll down the embankment in the right repeater camera. Carlos was on his way to go see The Weeknd at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, when a speeding Tahoe ran over a piece of tire. That caused the debris to fly across to Carlos' Tesla, hitting his front bumper cover and shattering his headlight. Unfortunately, he couldn't make out the license plate of the Tahoe that had kicked up the chunk of rubber. Carlos filed an insurance claim, but his own policy will have to cover the repairs since he couldn't identify the license plate of the driver responsible. Jovi had parked his Model 3 when Sentry Mode captured a Toyota Tacoma rear-ending a white Honda CR-V after failing to brake in time. Is this a reverse Honda bump? Ken had left his Model Y parked in Portland, Texas when a GMC pulled up next to him. The passenger in the back seat swung her door open and dinged the front door of the Tesla. The driver of the GMC walked over and touched where the door had made a dent and even scraped off some paint, but then they just left. Ken reported it to local law enforcement, who was completely amazed by the car's ability to record video of the incident. However, they said they couldn't do anything about it. Marty was driving in Roseland, New Jersey when he watched traffic let a driver exit a gas station and cross 2 lanes of stopped traffic. Unfortunately, their view was obstructed by a school bus. At the same time, an older, unaware couple zipped down the blind side of the bus and made contact with the exiting vehicle. Nobody was hurt, and everyone was appreciative of Marty's Teslacam footage. Marty sent us one more clip. This time, he pulled up behind a pickup waiting to make a right turn. As a pedestrian approached the crosswalk, the pickup unexpectedly moved forward, almost running over the pedestrian. The pedestrian then took his frustration out on the pickup's side mirror. What do you think? Do you think this was justified? Let us know in a comment. Jack was sound asleep at home in Charlotte, North Carolina when Sentry mode was suddenly activated on his Model 3 that was parked in the driveway. A man had walked past the car. Let's jump over to the door camera. Once at the front door, the man rang the doorbell. Since Jack had no idea who this guy was, and it was the middle of the night, he wisely chose not to answer the door. When nobody answered, the guy kicked the door of the Tesla, setting off the alarm. Jack called the local police non-emergency line to request a patrol, but they never showed up. There was no damage to the Tesla, so Jack isn't going to try to find the guy. He is a little worried that he might someday return and do something worse, though. This submitter was pulling out of a parking lot when he stopped at a stop sign before hearing an impact from behind. Honda bump. The cops came and took his statement, as well as the footage from the Teslacam, before issuing an arrest warrant for the driver of the Accord. You're not going to believe this, but the insurance company estimated $8,000 to repair the damage. A Rod was planning to turn left when a car coming from the left hit a car coming from the oncoming lane, sending it straight into a Rod's Tesla. Police, paramedics, and firefighters responded to the accident scene, but everyone involved in the crash was okay. Delavan says this painful video says it all. His wife was taking their daughter Sarah to go swimming when she forgot to close the passenger side door, assuming their daughter would close it. Sarah always tells her mom to be careful so she doesn't end up on Wham Bam Teslacam. After this happened, the first thing she told her dad was, "Mama crashed the car and we have a wham bam moment." Delavan says this is the 3rd accident his wife has had in the Tesla. Unfortunately, he's on a first-name basis with the body shop by now. The repair bill came to $1,800. Shout out to Sarah for reminding her mom to send us this great wham bam content. Michael was stopped at a red light when, wham bam Honda bump. Michael admits there isn't anything too exciting about the video, except that he and his son shared a huge laugh afterward when they realized the car that hit them was a Honda. He did point out one interesting thing about this event though. A fraction of a second before he felt the impact, he heard a weird noise which he later realized must have been the seatbelt pretensioner automatically tightening the seatbelt. But seriously, what is going on with the Honda bumps lately? We're drowning in Honda bump submissions. Want to know another type of video spreading like wildfire? We're being bombarded with videos from Canada, the supposed land of friendly people. This guy walked up with his bike, loosened his belt, and proceeded to urinate behind and on this submitter's Model 3. The submitter was seriously disgusted by this act. Come on, man. There were public restrooms right there in the strip mall. He says that the world, and especially his car, are not your urinal. Time to take a look at Brian's repair bill from our first clip. The total bill was just over $40,000 in damage. Unsurprisingly, his insurance company decided to total the car. Brian has already ordered a new Model 3 Performance in the same color, and he's excited to have a car with the new AMD Ryzen chip instead of the old Intel Atom. So how close was your answer?